Plant breeding. Traditional farming can only yield a limited biomass as food for humans and animals. Better management practices and increase in acreage can increase yield, but only to a limited extent. Plant breeding as a technology has helped increase yields to a very large extent. Who in India has not heard of Green Revolution, which was responsible for our country to not only mere meet the national requirements in food production but also help us even to export it. Green Revolution was dependent to a large extent on plant breeding techniques for development of high yielding and disease resistant varieties in wheat, rice, maize, etc. What is plant breeding? Plant breeding is the purposeful manipulation of plant species in order to create desired plant tyres that are better suited for cultivation, give better yields, and are disease resistant. Conventional plant breeding has been practiced for thousands of years. Since the beginning of human civilization, recorded evidence of plant breeding dates back to 9,000 to 11,000 years ago. Many present day crops are the result of domestication in ancient times. Today, all our major food crops are derived from domesticated varieties. Classical plant breeding involves crossing or hybridization of pure lines, followed by artificial selection to produce plants with desirable traits of higher yield, nutrition, and resistance to diseases. With advancement in genetics, molecular biology, and tissue culture, plant breeding is now increasingly being carried out by using molecular genetic tools. If we were to list the traits or characters that the breeders have tried to incorporate into crop plants, the first we should list would be increased crop yield and improved quality. Increased tolerance to environmental stresses such as salinity, extreme temperatures, drought, and resistance to pathogens like viruses, fungi, and bacteria, and increased tolerance to insect pests would be in our list too. Plant breeding programs are carried out in a systematic way worldwide, in government institutions and commercial companies. The main steps in breeding a new genetic variety of a crop are: first, collection of variability. Genetic variability is the root of any breeding program. In many crops, pre-existing genetic variability is available from wild relatives of the crop. Collection and preservation of all the different wild varieties, species, and relatives of the cultivated species, followed by their evolution for their characteristics, is a prerequisite for effective exploitation of natural genes available in the populations. The entire collection of plants, seeds having all the diverse alleles for all genes in a given crop is called germplasm collection. Second, evaluation and selection of parents. The germplasm is evaluated so as to identify plants with desirable combination of characters. The selected plants are multiplied and used in the process of hybridization. Pure lines are created wherever desirable and possible. Third, cross hybridization among the selected parents. The desired characters have very often to be combined from two different plant parents. For example, high protein quality of one parent may need to be combined with the disease resistance from another parent. This is possible by cross hybridizing the two parents to produce hybrids that genetically combine the desired characters in one plant. This is a very time consuming and tedious process, since the pollen grains from the desirable plant chosen as male parent have to be collected and placed on the stigma of the flowers selected as female parent. Also, it is not necessary that the hybrids do combine the desirable characters. Usually, one in a few hundred to 1,000 crosses shows a desirable combination. Selection and testing of superior recombinants. This consists of selecting among the progeny of the hybrids those plants that have the desired character combination. The selection process is crucial to the success of the breeding objective and requires careful scientific evaluation of the progeny. This step yields plants that are superior to both of the parents. Very often, more than one superior progeny plant may become available. These are self-pollinated for several generations till they reach a state of uniformity, homozygosity, so that the characters will not segregate in the progeny. Fifth, testing, release and commercialization of new cultivars. The newly selected lines are evaluated for their yield and other agronomic traits of quality, disease resistance, etc. This evaluation is done by growing these in the research fields and recording their performance under ideal fertilizer application, irrigation and other crop management practices. The evaluation in the research fields is followed by testing the materials in farmers' field. For at least 3 growing seasons at several locations in the country representing all the agroclimatic zones where the crop is usually grown. The material is evaluated in comparison to the best available local crop cultivar, a check or reference cultivar. India is mainly an agricultural country. Agriculture accounts for approximately 33% of India's GDP and employs nearly 62% of the population. After India's independence, one of the main challenges facing the country was that of producing enough food for the increased population. As only limited land is fit for cultivation, India has to strive to increased yields per unit area from existing farmland. The development of several high-yielding varieties of wheat and rice in the mid-1960s as a result of various plant breeding techniques led to dramatic increase in food production in our country. This phase is often referred to as the Green Revolution. Wheat and rice. During the period 1960 to 2000, wheat production increased from 11 million tons to 75 million tons, while rice production went up from 35 million tons to 89.5 million tons. This was due to the development of semi-dwarf varieties of wheat and rice. Nobel laureate Norman E. Borlaug at International Center for Wheat and Maize Improvement in Mexico developed semi-dwarf wheat. In 1963, several varieties such as Sonalika and Kalyan Sona, which were high-yielding and disease-resistant, were introduced all over the wheat growing belt of India. Semi-dwarf rice varieties were derived from IR8, developed at International Rice Research Institute IRRI, Philippines, and Taichung Native 1 from Taiwan. The derivatives were introduced in 1966. Later, better yielding semi-dwarf varieties Jaya and Ratna of rice were developed in India. Sugarcane. Saccharum barberi was originally grown in North India but had poor sugar content and yield. Tropical canes grown in South India, Saccharum officinarum, had thicker stems and higher sugar content but did not grow well in North India. These two species were successively crossed to get sugar cane varieties combining the desirable qualities of high yield, thick stems, high sugar and ability to grow the sugarcane in the areas of North India. Millets. Hybrid made maize, jowar, and bajra have been successfully developed in India. Hybrid breeding have led to the development of several high-yielding varieties resistant to water stress. Plant breeding for disease resistance. A wide range of fungal, bacterial, and viral pathogens affect the yield of cultivated crop species, especially in tropical climates. Crop losses can often be significant, up to 20 to 30%, or sometimes even total. In this situation, breeding and development of cultivars resistant to disease enhances food production. This also helps reduce the dependence on use of fungicides and bactericides. Resistance of the host plant is the ability to prevent the pathogen from causing disease and is determined by the genetic constitution of the host plant. Before breeding is undertaken, it is important to know about the causative organism and the mode of transmission. Some of the diseases caused by fungi are rusts, example brown rust of wheat, red rot of sugarcane, and late blight of potato. By bacteria are black rot of crucifers, and by viruses tobacco mosaic and turnip mosaic, etc. Methods of breeding for disease resistance. Breeding is carried out by the conventional breeding techniques described earlier or by mutation breeding. The conventional method of breeding for disease resistance is that of hybridization and selection. Its steps are essentially identical to those for breeding for any other agronomic characters such as high yield. The various sequential steps are screening germplasm for resistant sources, hybridization of selected parents, selection and evaluation of the hybrids, and testing and release of new cultivars. Some crop varieties bred by hybridization and selection for disease resistance to fungi, bacteria, and viral diseases are shown: wheat, himgiri, leaf and stipe rust, hillbunt; brassica, Pusa swarnim karandrai, white rust; cauliflower, Pusa shubra, Pusa snowball K1, black rot, and curl blight black rot; cowpea, Pusa komal, bacterial blight; chili, Pusa sadabahar, chili mosaic virus, tobacco mosaic virus, and leaf curl. Conventional breeding is often constrained by the availability of limited number of disease resistance genes that are present and identified in various crop varieties or wild varieties. Inducing mutations in plant through diverse means and then screening the plant materials for resistance sometimes leads to desirable genes being identified. Plants having these desirable characters can then be either multiplied directly or can be used in breeding. Other breeding methods that are used are selection amongst somaclonal variations and genetic engineering. Mutation is the process by which genetic variations are created through changes in the base sequence within genes, resulting in the creation of a new character or trait not found in the parental type. It is possible to induce mutations artificially through use of chemicals or radiations like gamma radiation and selecting and using the plants that have the desirable character as a source in breeding. This process is called mutation breeding. In mung bean, resistance to yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew were induced by mutations. Several wild relatives of different cultivated species of plants have been shown to have certain resistant characters but have very low yield. Hence, there is a need to introduce the resistant genes into the high yielding cultivated varieties. resistance to yellow mosaic virus in Bhindi, Abelmoschus esculentus, was transferred from a wild species and resulted in a new variety, Abelmoschus esculentus, called Parbhani Kranti. All the above examples involve sources of resistance genes that are in the same crop varieties, which has to be bred for disease resistance or in a related wild species. Transfer of resistance genes is achieved by sexual hybridization between the target and the source plant, followed by selection. Plant breeding for developing resistance to insect pests. Another major cause for large scale destruction of crop plants and crop produce is insect and pest infestation. Insect resistance in host crop plants may be due to morphological, biochemical, or physiological characteristics. Hairy leaves in several plants are associated with resistance to insect pests, example, resistance to jassids in cotton and cereal leaf beetle in wheat. In wheat, solid stems lead to non-preference by the stem sawfly, and smooth-leaved and nectarless cotton varieties do not attract bollworms. High aspartic acid, low nitrogen and sugar content in maize leads to resistance to maize stem borers. Breeding methods for insect pest resistance involve the same steps as those for any other agronomic trait such as yield or quality and are as discussed earlier. Sources of resistance genes may be cultivated varieties, germplasm collections of the crop, and wild relatives. Some released crop varieties bred by hybridization and selection for insect pest resistance are given in the table. Brassica, Pusa Gaurav aphids. Flat bean, Pusa sem 2, Pusa sem 3, jassids, aphids and fruit borer. Okra, Bhindi, Pusa savni, Pusa A4, shoot and fruit borer. Plant breeding for improved food quality. More than 840 million people in the world do not have adequate food to meet their daily food and nutritional requirements. A far greater number, 3 billion people, suffer from micronutrient, protein, and vitamin deficiencies or hidden hunger because they cannot afford to buy enough fruits, vegetables, legumes, fish, and meat. Diets lacking essential micronutrients, particularly iron, vitamin A, iodine, and zinc, increase the risk for disease, reduce lifespan, and reduce mental abilities. Biofortification, breeding crops with higher levels of vitamins and minerals or higher protein and healthier fats, is the most practical means to improve public health. Breeding for improved nutritional quality is undertaken with the objectives of improving first, protein content and quality, second, oil content and quality, third, vitamin content, and fourth, micronutrient and mineral content. In 2000, maize hybrids that had twice the amount of the amino acids lysine and tryptophan compared to existing maize hybrids were developed. Wheat variety Atlas 66, having a high protein content, has been used as a donor for improving cultivated wheat. It has been possible to develop an iron fortified rice variety containing over 5 times as much iron as in commonly consumed varieties. The Indian Agricultural Research Institute, New Delhi, has also released several vegetable crops that are rich in vitamins and minerals. Example, vitamin A enriched carrot, spinach, pumpkin. Vitamin C enriched bitter gourd, bathua, mustard, tomato, iron. And calcium enriched spinach and bathua. And protein enriched beans, broad, lub, French, and garden peas. Single cell protein. Conventional agricultural production of cereals, pulses, vegetables, fruits, etc. may not be able to meet the demand of food at the rate at which human and animal population is increasing. The shift from grain to meat diets also creates more demand for cereals as it takes 3 to 10 kg of grain to produce 1 kg of meat by animal farming. More than 25% of human population is suffering from hunger and malnutrition. One of the alternate sources of proteins for animal and human nutrition is single cell protein. Microbes are being grown on an industrial scale as source of good protein. Blue-green algae like spirulina can be grown easily on materials like wastewater from potato processing plants containing starch, straw, molasses, animal manure, and even sewage to produce large quantities and can serve as food rich in protein, minerals, fats, carbohydrate, and vitamins. Incidentally, such utilization also reduces environmental pollution. Certain bacterial species like Methylophilus methylotrophus, because of its high rate of biomass production and growth, can be expected to produce 25 tons of protein. The fact that edible mushrooms are eaten by many people and large-scale mushroom culture is a growing industry makes it believable that microscopic fungi too would become acceptable as food. Tissue culture. As traditional breeding techniques fail to keep pace with demand and to provide sufficiently fast and efficient systems for crop improvement, another technology called tissue culture got developed. What does tissue culture mean? It was learned by scientists during 90s 50s that whole plants could be generated from explants, that is, any part of a plant taken out and grown in a test tube under sterile condition in a special nutrient media. This capacity to generate a whole plant from any cell or explant is called totipotency. You will learn how to accomplish this in higher classes. It is important to stress here that the nutrient medium must provide a carbon source such as sucrose and also inorganic salts, vitamins, amino acids and growth regulators like auxins, cytokinins, etc. By application of these methods, it is possible to achieve propagation of a large number of plants in very short durations. This method of producing thousands of plants through tissue culture is called micropropagation. Each of these plants will be genetically identical to original plant from which they were grown, that is, they are soma clones. Many important food plants like tomato, banana, apple, etc. have been produced on commercial scale using this method. Try to visit a tissue culture laboratory with your teacher to better understand and appreciate the process. Another important application of the method is the recovery of healthy plant from diseased plant. Even if the plant is infected with a virus, the meristem, apical and axillary is free of virus. Hence, one can remove the meristem and grow it in vitro to obtain virus-free plants. Scientists have succeeded in culturing meristems of banana, sugarcane, potato, etc. Scientists have been isolated single cells from plants and after digesting their cell walls have been able to isolate naked protoplasts surrounded by plasma membranes. Isolated protoplasts from two different varieties of plants, each having a desirable character, can be fused to get hybrid protoplasts, which can be further grown to form a new plant. These hybrids are called somatic hybrids, while the process is called somatic hybridization. Imagine a situation when a protoplast of tomato is fused with that of potato, and then they are grown to form a new hybrid plant combining tomato and potato characteristics. Well, this has been achieved, resulting in formation of pomato. Unfortunately, this plant did not have all the desired combinations of characteristics for its commercial production. Thank you very much.